I think a couple of weeks ago, you teased me, and we never got back to it, that you said, oh, I've got a Derek Coleman story. Because we were going through number 44s or something, like specific numbers, maybe 34s. Derek Coleman was on the list. You're like, I have a Derek Coleman story that I need. Can you tell that story just off the cuff?
When I was playing with Detroit, DC, at the end of his career, he came back home, and for that year, he played with the Pistons. So, we on the road trip and everything. So again, I think we were in Orlando. I could be wrong, but either way, we were in the mall as a team unit. So, we wanted to go grab some grub, and everybody's shopping and shit. And it's probably almost Christmas time, right? So it's myself, DC, who else was with me? I think Lindsey Hunter. And it was like one or two more people, right? So, we walking window shopping, So we see the Rook in the Apple store, Smush Parker, right? So, we like, DC seen him. So, we all go in there. We like, oh, shit, so we just go in here fuck with Smush. And so, it was like, I put an iPad up on there, or I mean, not an iPad, excuse me, an iPod up on there and everything. And, guys just grab shit and it's like, yeah, he paying for this too. But, we were joking, right? So DC, I think it was a speaker, so it was pretty much something that was going to be used in the locker room for us anyway. So it wasn't like it was personally going towards DC. So he was like, hey, Smush, he was like, get that speaker. And then so with myself and a couple of other guys, saying like, oh, no, we were just joking, blase. Smush thought DC was joking. But DC wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't, grinning, none of that shit. He dead killer face, right? So I'm like, oh, shit, he gonna fuck with the Rook. So then he was like, look, bring this speaker back to the hotel with you. And then Smush was like, for real, DC? He was like, yeah. I was like, man, I ain't getting that speaker. I can't get that speaker. DC was like, come back to that hotel without that speaker and watch what happened. So, we all left out and everything, right? So then a couple days later, it was we were back home in Detroit. So we in the locker room, right? So DC was like, hey, you got that speaker? And he was like, nah, DC, I thought you was playing this and that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Man, hey, DC was like, all right. So Smush, rookie, you got to go out there before the vets. Smush goes. And so he tells, he fucks with Smush for about 2 weeks, bro. So Smush in there getting tape. And if DC just walking in, nah, fuck that. No, I want to get tape. No, get this rookie the fuck out of here. This and that, right? So the whole time with anything, getting on the bus, eating, like if we were eating a team meal, we're eating, like, nah. Somebody else would go before him, and he kept fucking with Smush. Then Smush was like, all right, DC, damn, I'm sorry, man. He was like, I got to do it. I do it, man. Damn. I'm like, yo, it was hilarious. But it was just showing Smush pretty much like, yo, it's still a chain of command, with the veterans and the rookies. And it's not like he was asking them to buy, something real extravagant or this. It was probably like about a $250 speaker. But the point of it was like, look, that's where the veterans play with you. As like, just like, who was it? I think I read something a couple weeks ago where the Broncos, I think it was the Broncos, gave a rookie a $333,000 food bill or some crazy shit like that. I was like, yo, I mean, of course, I hope not. Goodness gracious. I hope everybody chimed in and, helped pay for that, John. But it was just, little things that you do with rookies to see where their mentality is at. Because if Smush would have got the speaker, then the point would have been DC wouldn't have fucked with him. Mm-hmm. But with him fighting it and this and that, so DC kept fucking with him. And so DC taught him a lesson. I mean, at the end of it, Smush got it. So he got the point and he ended up getting the speaker. But,
I was about to say, did he end up buying it?
Shit. Oh, yeah, he got the speaker. We used the speaker in the locker room, just as I thought.
And
I was like, man,
when did DC forgive him? When he finally brought the speaker, or was it more of
yeah,
just
yeah.
Tony
DC stopped
Soprano
fucking
style?
with him
That's what
after
I
that.
thought.
Yeah, no, he stopped fucking with him after that.
Okay.
And all he said was, "Damn, that's all you had to do from the jump."
All right. All right. When Hazing was a little bit more, not
Yeah, a
necessarily
little bit more
acceptable.
loose.
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
Loose, a
Yeah,
little
a
bit
little bit
more
more
of.
loose. Everybody wasn't so uptight about it and this and that. Because everybody go, I mean, I don't care where you work at. You're gonna go through some rookie hazing, especially if you got some good veterans. Like let's just say we're gonna go old school, and you were in the office and you were writing for the newspaper. And then, okay, the other veteran, guys in the office, it's your first day there, whatever, and they see that you pretty cool. What they gonna do? They gonna fuck with you a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah,
rookie, hey,
it's
go as so and so for a pencil sharpener. It's the inside joke. They're gonna fuck with the rook a little bit.
right.
So that's all it is when you're dealing with professional athletes in the NBA, NFL, all of that. It's pretty much to test the rook's character. You know what I'm saying? To see where they at, because I know my rookie season, my hazing, I was the only rookie, number one.
Oh
So
God.
we went up to the mountains in I think it was in West Virginia, and I had to get up a couple hours early. So like, let's just say we had a team meeting at 11. So I got to get up at about like 8:30. So help the trainer do the laundry. Boom, 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 separating laundry. I got to drop them. Now I'm by myself. I got to drop the bags off at the rooms. And now, of course, they fucking with the rook. Yeah, you think you Mr. All-American coming from North Carolina, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, make sure you got my donuts or my paper, my coffee, tea, whatever. And I want that shit to be hot, this and that, da, da, da. So I'm like, look, I'm like this. I'm like a short order cook. Like, okay, what you want? Okay, but I had to do it. You know what I'm saying? And I knocked that shit out in like 2 weeks. That's back when training camp was the full week. So I knocked that out that first week in training camp, and when we got back to DC, and then for the rest of the season, they ain't fuck with me. On no other shit. Like I ain't had to pay no dinner bills or anything like that, because they saw like, all right, he cool, he got good character and shit like that. So that's all it's a judgment of.
Yeah, it's a rite of passage in some ways, and everyone treats it differently. You don't.
Yeah.
Some people get affected by it because they don't like being hazed like that, and some people just realize that they're only doing it because they like me, kind of, and it's they're boys mess with each other, right? Like
Yeah,
I played
exactly. You get it.
yeah, I play at Carolina Sheet. I pledged Sigma Chi, and when I was there, the entire fraternity was the starting line, offensive line, and fullback and quarterback of the football team. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm not on the football team. It's like they almost brought me in just to fuck with me, I thought sometimes. But today's moment in time, it's your one game with the Atlanta Hawks, and I have found the one game, all right, and I alluded to this last show. It's the one game, and you played 40 plus minutes in this game. 40 plus minutes, and I found the one video on YouTube, the one highlight reel from that game, and it's about 15 seconds long, and that's it. It was against the New Jersey Nets, one of their best teams with Kerry Kittles.
In Jersey,
and I think
not Brooklyn, in Jersey.
In Jersey, the really good New Jersey Nets team. In Rasheed's out there for 40 plus minutes. That's usually not what happens when a guy gets traded for and is going to be out the next day. That player in today's 2023 would not, like, they just keep him on the bench because you're about to be traded and we don't want you to get injured or do something that messes up the future trade.
Blah, blah, blah. Exactly.
So I did my research sheet, and we'll run the highlights here for you just to take us through that night. I did my research, and I watched the All the Smoke episode with you and Stack talking about the day that the morning, not the day, but the morning that you found out that you had now been traded from Atlanta to Detroit. You were sitting in was it a P.F. Chang's or a Cheesecake Factory drinking that morning with Stack.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
so
and it came up on a ticker, the bottom line on the ticker. Like, damn.
Okay.
And then, so of course, we think it's like, oh man, whatever. I don't believe that.
So that was the morning after. I want you to take me through the night before, which was the game itself. Like, were you under the assumption that I'm going to be an Atlanta Hawk potentially for the rest of my career. And clearly, you just went out there and handled business because you played a shit ton of minutes. You played well. And then, like, what's it like when you walked into that locker room for one night and then you got to grab your stuff and be like, all right, guys, see you later. Take us through that.
So it was definitely a good night for us. Even though we came up on the short end, but we competed with those guys. And remember, they were coming straight off of if I'm not mistaken, the finals appearance the year before or something of that nature. But that was that finals team, with J Kidd, you had Kenyon Martin, you had Kerry Kittles, you had Aaron Thompson, lefty. Frank was their coach. That was a pretty good, well put together team. They had the Collins kid for the backup centers, and they had a good bench. That was an overall good squad. So here we are. It's myself, pretty much. It's myself, JT, Jason Terry, Stack 5, and Boris Diaw. Right? So
speak of the devil.
So it was crazy you mentioned him. Wow. So here it is. So I'll back up just a little bit. So when I first got traded there, right, it was during that All-Star break. So I'm down in Atlanta and we're practicing. So sitting in practice. And to answer your question, no, I didn't think I was going to go anywhere else. I thought I was going to go, finish that season out in Atlanta and then, possibly go somewhere else after that. But so we sitting there in practice and it was no way, even mathematically, that they could make the playoffs. So my thing, like, look, all right, guys, let's do this. Fuck it. We can't make the playoffs, so we could fuck it up for a whole lot of other dudes out there that's either like on a bubble or, a lot of teams thinking they hot. Like, man, we go out here and fuck some dudes up real quick. And then, everybody was all in. We was like, man, fuck it. So I think the starting five, I could be wrong. I think Joel Prisbilla might have been the 5. Me 4, Boris, Stack, and Jason Terry.
Yeah.
And I think that was our 5. And man, we went out there, we gave them a good game, man. It was fun. It was fun. And because it was all in, like, look, fuck it. We ain't got nothing to lose. So we just went out there and balled out. So then we we've again fly to Miami. And, we end up having a good night, going out, getting something to eat, drink, all that shit. And, yeah, we're getting something to eat that next morning, that next afternoon with some lunch. And, boom, that's when it came up. And I was like, what? And then a couple seconds later, bang, bang, my agent called me. Agent calls, hey, you've been traded to Detroit, this and that. I was like, oh shit, I was kind of sad because I wanted to ball out with my guys some more because we were all friends before I got to Atlanta. So, to play with we didn't do it purposely. I didn't say, oh, I want to go to Atlanta, like, trying to put together a super team like a lot of the cats do now. But we just ended up together. We knew each other. We was balled out like, fuck it. So
now, speaking about big individual performances, the time of filming this is the morning after. Donovan Mitchell has gone out and scored 71 points in a single regular season game. He not only breaks LeBron James's franchise high, 58 for points scored in a single game, and you break LeBron's record in Cleveland doing anything. It's a special night. But 71, he breaks it by 14 points total. 71 is 71. And I know it took him 50 minutes of game time to get there. It took an overtime period. It took an overtime period. But 71 is still 71. And I was comparing box scores to Kobe's 81 as well as Booker's 70. And of course, there's differences between them all. Devin Booker's 70 was in a loss. Kobe, you look at Kobe's field goal attempts that night. By the way, Donovan Mitchell dropped, I think, 11 assists. It was the most unselfish 71-point performance ever.
It was more of, I'm going to take what the defense gives me. Because, again, look at what again, like we were talking about with Joker. What makes it impressive is the shot attempts. He got 71 on 34 shots. That's pretty impressive. And 7 for 15 with threes. Yeah, 7 for 15 with 3. That's pretty impressive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you shooting the lights out the ball. Like, god damn. Hey, 71. Hey, tip my hat to you, young fella. Man.
So,
And you know, it's we seen when Rip got 60, I think Rip got 60 or 61, something like that, or 50. It was high 50s. I know that for a fact. In the Madison Square Garden, right? We playing the Knicks. So it's not like that was our game plan, like, yo, we gonna go out here, these cats is ass, when we just gonna go ahead and run racks on them. Boom. No. Rip took what the defense gave him, and then as teammates, as you know, veteran teammates, like, look, shit, he got that hot hand. So now we all doing everything extra to make sure that it's still within the offense. We're not forcing nothing. And you know, Rip went out there and played a good game. And I think that's how Donovan did it. I don't think anything was forced outside of what we see him do on a daily every night. You know what I mean? But damn.
No, I can agree with, because I think he only had 17 points or something going to halftime. This was not supposed to happen. Like, there was no Donovan Mitchell's on 70-point watch. I know that number's not correct. Hopefully the comment section can correct me. It wasn't a lot of points. Right. And in the third quarter, I think he put up either 24 or 27. And then at the end of the fourth, the way that the speaking about this, the only way that I could describe as to what happened was divine intervention, because it required, and we've now seen it 4 times this week, a perfectly missed free throw by Donovan Mitchell himself to get that rebound with the score 103-101. Mitchell, the ball just miraculously falls to him after he slithers his way down to the block. And I'm watching the camera angle, which is on the sideline, and you see the ball just like poop. It just goes bloop out of the scrum, and it's in. And you're like, what the hell just happened? That was Donovan Mitchell? And all of a sudden, he just broke the record. He broke LeBron's record as a result of that. The game is tied. We're going to overtime. They come back from being down 7-8 points late. The Bulls have blown like a massive game, which is now taking a backseat storyline. We're going to overtime, in which he was just getting into the 60s. But to your point, he wasn't searching for buckets the way that, because Devin Booker and the Suns, they lost that game well into the fourth quarter. That game was over, but they were going out of their way to put Devin Booker in a position to score. And I remember as a result, like, Boston was like, we're not letting you take the glory. We won this game. And they were sending double team after double team, and Booker was finding his way to the free throw line. And this was not the case. And I don't want that. That's going to sound like I'm shitting on Devin Booker's 70. No, 70 is 70.
70
okay?
is 70.
No. But man, listen, every time that I look up at the end of the fourth quarter or overtime, I'm watching Donovan Mitchell in isolation in a mismatch against either like Zach LaVine or someone that's barbecue chicken. And I'm thinking out loud here, y'all have Patrick Williams. Caruso wasn't in the game either from an injury or foul trouble or something. I'm like, where is Ayo Dosunmu? They have some decent individual defenders, and they're letting Donovan Mitchell just cook Zach LaVine alive. And it's isolation, 3-point line, the little Donovan Mitchell hesitation, crossover through the legs, step back that he always pulled in Utah, especially in those playoff series against the Nuggets. He was just drilling them time, and they were really good and efficient shots, and they were just all going in. And we still wouldn't have gotten to 70 unless he makes the first free throw, miraculously misses the second, miraculously gets the rebound amongst 8 other guys, miraculously puts up the putback without getting fouled, which would have ended the game if he goes to the free throw line. So for all of these things to occur, that's a very long-winded way of getting to the point that getting to 70, let alone 80, and that's what I'm about to follow up with you here, Sheed, is getting to 70 requires divine intervention of basketball circumstances. And you have to shoot a lot of free throws. You have to score a lot of points with the clock stopped, because you need a mass amount and quantity of possessions to simply score that many points. And that's usually a result of being at the free throw line when the clock is stopped. So now I'm thinking, if it took, because I watched every second of this game, and Donovan Mitchell did not miss. And I'm thinking it took him overtime. It took him 5 minutes more than Devin Booker. It took him 5 minutes more than. How the hell is anyone ever going to score 81 in the modern day NBA? I know Wilt did it in 100, but give me like what has to occur for someone to score 80 points? Do they have to play every single second of the game? Do they have to get fouled 40 times, shoot 40 free throws? Because that really feels like, after watching last night, the only way it's ever going to happen.
Oh yeah, definitely the stars got to be aligned for you. That's no doubt about it. But it also, everything is again, the stars being luck, preparation, the fact that, he didn't break down. He wasn't like tired because he kept having that energy, because probably when he reached like 50 something points or 60 points, boom, that gave him that rejuvenation real quick. Like, damn, all right, shit, we're gonna keep busting these motherfuckers' ass. Like, shit, let's go out here and do it. And so, with all of that lined up for him, again, as you said, just think about it. That ball could have got kicked out of bounds, or he could have made the foul shots. Could have got fouled on the rebound. It could have got blocked. It was a lot of things, a lot of circumstances that could have happened, but everything was lined up perfect for him to get his bucket. And to do what he did last night with dropping that 71, of course, like you said, it's a shit. It's hard to break anything LeBron when you're dealing with Cleveland, but shit, he just stamped his name up there. Definitely gotta go in Cleveland's little Hall of Fame just for that game alone. Cause gosh, yo.
Also, every time that one of these mega nuclear individual performances occurs in today's NBA, because we've seen players have 40, 50 points after three quarters, and you think we're on the.
Zach LaVine just had 45, the other day?
Yeah, like Luka Doncic will have 40 at halftime, but the stars didn't align that night for this to occur, because if the game's a blowout, Devin Booker had, I think, 60 after three, or like 50 after three a couple of weeks ago, but because they were up by so many points, they didn't. The player just sits on the bench for the fourth quarter because there's bigger picture there. And if you put him back out there, then the other team knows that he's going stat hunting. So if we're going to foul the shit out of him. We're going to
then that's when he's going to miss shots.
Right.
Then, you're putting a different mentality now. Yeah.
You're putting the player at risk. You're putting his health at risk, and you're also trying to rub it in. So they'll send triple teams to get the ball out of his hands. We don't even care what the score is at this point, as long as you don't embarrass us. But this particular night against the Bulls, that the game was close. It required that individual performance from Donovan Mitchell to just get to overtime in general. And then having those defenders, those weak defenders up against him in isolation, this was the night that everything, just a cosmic divine intervention that occurred. And at just a couple of hours later, when everyone goes to sleep thinking we just witnessed the most eye-popping, jaw-dropping performance of the night, Klay Thompson, in the year 2023, off of years of missing NBA, decides to drop 54.
Really hear about it. Yeah.
He goes out and he puts up 54, granted 2 overtimes, but this is a Klay Thompson, which people have thought is a shadow of his old self. He's just a zombie version. He goes out there 6 points shy of his own career high of 60. And the Warriors win a double overtime game in Chase Center. They moved to 17-2 at home. They got this place sounding like Oracle West across the bridge. And
right.
I want to ask you this question, and it's more a big picture basketball question. Why is it that the stars in the NBA are just going off with these historic stat lines every single night? Giannis Antetokounmpo, the first time since Moses Malone, putting up back-to-back 40-20 games. Last time I checked, I'm drinking the water. There's nothing different about the water. Right? What the hell is going on in the league today, man?
I think what it is, or what it could be, all right, guys are starting to, all right, let's click it on, let's get back. We got to find some type of groove to get in before this All-Star break. So we got to find a groove before that, because you can't wait till you come back from there and be like, all right, let's go out here and let's do this thing. Let's make this run, this and that. No, you got to find that groove before that. So now you have a lot of veteran players that are stepping up, that are finding their grooves. That rust is coming off from going and having a training camp and then the preseason, then early in the season, and then here it is, you're probably fighting injuries and this and that. So now you got a lot of these stars that are, one, playing daily, two, starting to feel good about themselves, about them team, about their team. And it's just, contagious going to different teams on a nightly. So, I mean, overall, I just want to know, or I would love to be a bird on a wall when all these guys who had the big games, when you had Donovan 71, when you had Zach's 45, and Bede's 44, and you had Clay's 55. They're the guys that they cooked. I wish I could hear the conversation with they homies, because I know that's like, damn, like, yo, he cooked your ass, son. Like, yo, I mean, you couldn't do nothing? Oh, man, brutal. You hear me? Brutal. Oh, them for sure. Them Twitter fingers, them tweet fingers, and text fingers would have been going if that was, what I'm saying, my homie or whatever. But it's all in good fun. But, man, I mean, literally, I just got to say, while the stars are aligned and guys are starting to feel themselves now and got to catch some rhythm before this All-Star break.
Well, that's good insight, because that is something that I couldn't brainstorm last night, trying to put this all into a realistic context. Because the first thing I did was I went to look at the average pace per game per NBA season, and the pace is the number of possessions per game, right? It's the same and even a tick lower than it's been the past couple of years. Granted, from like the 90s, the game is averaging 10 more possessions per game. But I looked at 2022, 2023, and I figure maybe pace is just through the roof, which is creating more possessions, which just by a transitive property results in more scoring opportunities. But that wasn't the case. So then I start thinking all right, are they shooting more free throws? Yeah, they're shooting a couple more free throws. These stars the games are averaging like 3 more free throws than usual, but we still have a small sample size, only not even halfway through the season yet. So I'm like, that's not enough to explain why LeBron at age 38 is going 40-point triple doubles on back-to-back nights. And now I start questioning myself and just thinking out loud, are these guys just becoming that good at the game as the game evolved to the point that a center like Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic might be a better dribbler than your point guard? Like, because that sometimes looks like it's true with Jokic bringing the ball up the floor, running fast breaks. He's the best passer in the league. He can control the ball like he's Chris Paul. And now there is no more positions. 1 equals point guard, 2 equals shooting guard, 5 equals center. All of these great players in the league today can play every position on both ends of the floor. And now that the game has evolved to this outside in strategy where even centers are shooting 3-pointers, and you sure as hell know this because you were one of the originals to start stepping outside there. And you saw the difference that it made being a big guy that's able to shoot threes. But now everyone is doing it. And as a result, there's space. That athletes are just better. Like, I guess they're more human physical specimens. I don't even know how to describe it than they were in the past. They have more space to operate. I'm still trying to put it all together here because this shit is happening every night. And it shouldn't be saturating the fact that 50 is not impressive anymore. 50 is 50, no matter when it happens.
Man, 50 is 50. They say what they want.
What's your career high, Sheed? Do you know?
Shit. I think my career high might be like 36 or 38, something like that.
Okay, so if it is 36,
impressive.
Right? No, but still, let's just use this as a talking point. That 36 or 38 as your career high that night. Did you feel when you went to the locker room? Are you just like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. My arms are tired from shooting so much. And that was just to get to 30. Did it feel like it was you had to go above and beyond to get to that number? Or for you, did it happen naturally that night? Because it sure as hell seems it's happening naturally for the Lukas, the LeBrons, the Embiids, even the Donovan Mitchells in his 70-point performance. That's what we just discussed. It's happening naturally. And I think we're taking it for granted as a result of that.
Well, yeah, it's like that night for me, it was it just came into the flow. And it was more of just shit, running the floor and, getting a couple dunks. couple threes here and there, but you got, like I said about Donovan, when he looked up there at that scoreboard, probably like, damn, I got 58 or I got 60 or whatever. Like, that's like eating a power pellet from Pac-Man. So he got that boosted energy. And then, you go out there, and again, you're not forcing it. You're not, because if you force it, the basketball guys going to be, all right, that's when, boom, you're going to start bricking every shot. You're going to start turning the ball over, or shots getting blocked, this and that. But for that to, a lot of these guys, the way that they're doing it, again, night in, night out, as you said, is more possessions, the more foul shots. Well, that's coming from dumbass ball play. That's coming from guys who, now think about it, all these damn point guards now want to be like Steph Curry and take 2 steps past half court and jack that shit up like it's all good and gravy. No, there's only one Steph Curry. Let's get that straight first and foremost. So he has the green light to do that. Other cats ain't got that green light, but they take them dumbass shots, or you got guys who know that can't shoot that 3 and it's a dare shot, dumbass shots, long shot, long rebound. So that's extra possessions. That's probably why that's going up. And then the same thing with the foul shots. It's poor defense. You got a lot of reaching and guys aren't moving their feet. We have very few good defenders that are point guards, wing players, and big men in this league. So other than that, yeah, a lot of guys out there just fucking hacking.
The evolution of the game also applies to the way it's officiated as well, and they are calling a lot of contact like they weren't in the early 2000s and the 90s. You could get away with a lot more, right? If you so much as touch someone's elbow on a jumper, that's 2 free throws. That results in more points. So offense is being encouraged. So that's certainly one of the reasons why this is happening. But you don't get there by little touches. You don't get to 50 from just a couple of extra touches on the elbow. All right. There's still some really just standout performances
that has to happen
in an NBA regular season that has not seen play at this level, I think, in a long time, which is why, one, the parity in the league, the Western Conference first through 10th place is currently separated by 4.5 games. No one knows who's going to win the West. There is no top-heavy NBA anymore where every year you go into the season thinking it's going to be the LeBron Invitational against Steph Curry or whatever, the Spurs. There's 3 teams who can win it. Why are we wasting our time? That NBA is long gone, and we can attribute a lot of that, guys, those of you watching this, I think, to the increased size of the talent pool in the NBA over the past couple of years, that every single one of those lottery picks coming in from international play where they're playing amongst grown men as teenagers, all of a sudden, as rookies, they're making impact on the game immediately. It's not taking 3 or 4 years to get their legs underneath them. They're not getting hazed by Derek Coleman and buying speakers and stuff. They are the guy almost immediately. And quick side note, Sheed, your career high was 42 points on February 20th, 2001 in a 104-94 victory over the Denver Nuggets. That you got to 42. There you go. It was such a memorable night. You had no clue. I would like to use this as a opportunity to pivot as we talk about these big names, the LeBrons, the Embiids, the Lukas, the Tatums, the Donovan Mitchells, the Kevin Durants. I mean, the NBA is so stacked right now. We just went almost 30+ minutes into a show without even talking about a team that's won 12 games in a row. Hopefully we'll get to that here in the near future. But I want to ask you, because I tried this exercise last night on the post-game show. I'm like, who the hell's the MVP? And who the hell is, because you vote 5 different places, and I was able to pull 9 players that I can make a case for that are deserving of a first place vote. Now, I can't give everyone the first place vote, and I ultimately went with, I think, just it's going to change every day, but at the moment of doing it, it was Jokic, it was Giannis, it was Luka, and then I'm sitting here saying, am I going to leave Kevin Durant off the podium? And I had no choice. I got to put Jason Tatum there. I'm like, I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit. So I would love to hear from you, because I've done this exercise many times, and I want to give you an opportunity to think about it out loud. That my criteria for MVP is 4 pillars, my definition of valuable, because everyone's definition of that word is different. For me, the first pillar is the eye test. Is he simply a guy that looks like he's an MVP? You're watching games and know that he makes a difference on the court that simply other players cannot. The obvious needs to be top 4 in your respective conference. That player needs to be on a top 4 team. unless there are outlier circumstances like Russell Westbrook's Oscar Robertson year, in which the Thunder finished in 6, but they still I think they won 50 games or something close to it. It was just an extremely top heavy Western Conference that year that you still got to that win number, but it was in 6th place. So top 4 is usually my second standard for that. I think that another obvious one is simply just having the numbers that you get into a barbershop conversation of what's he averaging? What are his points, his rebounds and assists? How does he affect the game from an analytical standpoint? And most importantly, if you take that player off of the team, what happens to them in the standings? For example, I think that's why Jokic has won back-to-back MVPs, because people recognize this Nuggets team is terrible. But with him,
without him,
all of a sudden, they're playoff contenders. Now, does that penalize someone like Jason Tatum that's on the Boston Celtics, who are the best team in the NBA? Why should he be penalized for being on a privileged team like that? It's not his fault that the team is good, and it's most likely the reason why they're good. But what is the definition of valuable? And to me, it's what happens to the team when you're not on it. And then my fourth and final pillar is what I like to call a holy shit moment. That something happens every single year. It's Westbrook in Denver where he hits the 3 at the buzzer to overcome Oscar Robertson. There was a Kevin Durant play back in his MVP campaign, I think, against the Nets when he was on the Thunder. Every year, the James Harden crossover of Wes Johnson. There's always one moment that occurs that everyone looks at each other and says, holy shit, that's the MVP. And this year, you could make the case for Luka Doncic in a 60, 21, and 10. Tatum's performances throughout the season, that many of these players already, Jokic's passes, like just hitting people in the head from across the damn court, that there's a moment in which you realize, holy shit, that's the MVP. Those are the ways that I assess who should win the award. But now I'm interested from a player who sees the game differently than simply a fan and a spectator. If you had a vote, like what would you be thinking about when giving that vote, that ballot, signing it to a specific guy?
I like your points. You make a lot of good points as far as what you hold your MVP on. And I think I would have to add to that by saying you also got to go with marketing community, because how, again, as you just said, okay, that player is hurt, right? So that team, they might not be doing as good, but now that player still has that strong representation in that community, or for that basketball team. Also, I would have to say doing it night in, night out, opposing to now. Don't get me wrong. Yes, it was phenomenal numbers that we've seen over the last few weeks, but it's only one thing that can. That's like you found that $20 and it's laying face up. And first thing, oh shit, $20. So what you think of automatically? Like, damn, I'm gonna get me something to eat real quick. Put this in my pocket, blah blah blah. But you flip it over and you see it's fake. So let's find out. Like, yeah, they're all stars, but you got to do it to me on that consistent basis. Now, I'm not saying go out there and score 50 every night or 70 every night like Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell or anything of that nature. But yeah, everyone knows the value of you to that team, with no matter if you're there or not. That comes with the whole territory of, if you are injured, and you're that big player or that key contributor to that team or that MVP vote, you got to be there on that bench if you hurt, because now your voice and your presence, you're not on the floor, but your presence is just as good for your teammates to help pick them up. So it involves a lot, and I think a lot of the guys who are candidates for it, for me, yeah, they are great basketball players. They do their thing out there on the floor, but it's also what you're doing with the people, because number one, that's who's mainly voting for you, and so you're going to get them votes. You're going to build them extra relationships when you out there in that community. If you hurt, because that's the main time to take advantage of it. Because when we're playing, everything is scheduled. So it's like, all right, say we're home for a week. I got a bum ankle. I twisted my ankle, or I got a sore back or knee or some shit like that, right? Something that's causing me to sit out for this week that we're at home, or there's 2 or 3 home stands, right? So, all right, whatever my injury is, all right, get it healed up, taped up, wrapped up, whatever, boom. All right, I got to go out here and hit the streets. go do all the extra things. You're already in a community because as I said, they schedule community events. So do the extra little things like shit in your own neighborhood. You go to the market. Hey, if you see somebody out there, hey, shit, do a couple things, buy some groceries, or help the people with this or that, or go to community center with the kids on your time, not scheduled time. Things like that. That's where that community wraps around that player. And now, boom, who's the one buying all the jerseys? Who's the ones that's going to try to come to all of the games? It's going to be those same people that you spent time with at the community center and this and that, especially if you look out for them with some tickets and this and that. But to me, that's the biggest part of being that MVP, because it's not just about basketball, it's overall. Because you could be a great basketball player, but if you ain't doing shit in the community, or you being real shitty towards, the organization about public appearances, then no, ain't nobody gonna vote for you with that.
All right.
But
So
the community is the big thing with it.
I know people watching this and in the comments are going to be like, what the hell's like, Sheed, this is a basketball award about an individual performance on the court. It has nothing to do with what you accomplish off of it and what you do in the community. And just to play devil's advocate and be Sheed's lawyer in this, I want to say that let's remember, everyone, that the MVP is a subjective award. It's people's opinions. So the same way that a politician gets elected and that he may not have had the greatest individual performance of politics during the season,
or the great debate or whatever,
because he spent time lobbying and just in the community and being in the right place at the right time, he built a reputation for himself as this quote unquote, let's use an NBA comparison here. People love Giannis. They love Giannis because they know his story. They find him humble. They love his dad jokes. And also his enemies love to use that.
Ain't got shit to do with basketball.
Right. But there's just this mindset that you watch Giannis that makes you want to root for him. And as a result, his popularity increases. You parlay that with his talent. And then all of a sudden you create this perfect storm of a true, votable candidate that if I vote Giannis, people will agree with me because he's likable. And whether we're human. So the likability factor, believe it or not does matter. Unless I don't know. I'm trying to think of what an unlikable player is for the mainstream basketball viewer. It's probably a James Harden or Trae Young, who has a very core fan base that will follow him to the ends of the earth. But I would say a majority of people don't like the way they play. They don't like what they do off the court. I'm making assumptions here. I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just using it as a hypothetical example. But those two players are not the most popular. So if they're going to win an MVP like James Harden did, he was able to win it with his basketball merit, which is a compliment to him when he didn't have the luxury of being the Disney star that Giannis Antetokounmpo is. Maybe that's why their rivalry was such a thing for a couple of years and why they were always taking shots at each other, kind of subtweeting each other in the media. I don't just run around and dunk. James Harden said that, and Giannis is kind of playing I'm the popular candidate MVP, but we're both really damn good. They ended up both winning it. So that's meant to more so just add to this conversation that there are people out there who do think like Rasheed, who has experience, obviously playing in the NBA. But for someone that is reading about how someone influences a community and is able to take on all of those responsibilities that are required of NBA players and star NBA players. Because Sheed, while I haven't played in the NBA, I worked for a team, and I know for a fact that you as a player, you are committed. You are, I don't know what the appropriate term is, but there is something in your contract that says you have to make a certain amount of community appearances as a part of you representing the NBA brand.
That organization, yep.
Okay, yep. So there's at NBA teams, the front offices, the basketball operations, the GMs, fans know that. They may even know the marketing team that teams have this. There's sales teams, but there's also community development, community relations that manage this relationship with the NBA, and that players find themselves in NBA Cares events, at a food drive for Thanksgiving or Christmas. These are all moments that are not staged, but are designed for a purpose. And it's the player's responsibility to fulfill those obligations. Otherwise, whatever it says in the contract can occur. You're required to do that. So Rasheed knows that, because Lord knows that you've not only had to participate those out of obligation, but you may have done some on your own free will. So as someone that has done those things, for you to say that shit matters, I hope you watching this, if you had an opinion that it's only a basketball award, because I did. Did you hear my 4 pillars? Did I once mention community involvement in mine? No, I hadn't thought about that once. But the perspective of a player that knows that being in the NBA is just more than being good at basketball, please take that into account when you see shit that maybe occurs off the court. It's not just an obligation, but the way that they perform said obligation when everyone is required to do it says a lot about that player and adds to the whole why you are most valuable. That's my piece.
Yeah, it's in the contract. No, you were right. It's in the contract that even when it comes to you dealing with no matter, like you said, the teams or with the GMs, the PR people, the trainers, all that, we all got to do at some point some type of community appearance, public appearance. No matter Christmas party, it could be a Christmas party, it could be whatever the case may be is going on in that city. And yeah, it's all part of the contract. Same thing with endorsement contracts. You got to fulfill, you getting paid a certain amount of money, then you're obligated to do a certain amount of commercials, a certain amount of appearances, a certain amount of signings if it requires you signing jerseys or T-shirts or whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's all in there. It's all part of the obligations. That comes with the contract. You know what I'm saying? You can't be like, all right, give me this, $10 million and shit. Now, I ain't trying to do none of that bullshit y'all talking about. I just want this $10 million. Well, guess what? With them endorsements, that $10 million ain't going to be there if you don't go do that shit. Bottom line. But that's all part of it, though. It's not just, remember, it's not just the basketball award. It's most valuable player. Yeah, it's a basketball themed award, but it's a whole overall award. Shit, what type of person is he? You know what I'm saying? He could be, like I said, he could have a shitty ass attitude, but on the court, he is killing it. He killing it, and he getting the votes and this and that. But off of the court, they having a hard time with him trying to make appearances, no matter if it's at elementary schools, community centers, the mall, whatever the case may be. No, it's an overall award, so you gotta throw community up in there as well, y'all.
We alluded to LeBron's just masterful back-to-back performances on his birthday, then in Charlotte, where he's putting up these 40-point games, going up and under with alley-oops flying through the air. And I want to ask you straight up, man. I want to ask you straight up, as someone that played in the league for a really long time, I don't know what your personal relationship is with LeBron, nor can you even properly answer this question. But just as someone that's experienced in the NBA, how long do you think LeBron is going to be an NBA player for?
Wow, good question. It all again, as we alluded to earlier, the stars got to be lined up, and it's a little bit of luck here and there. Well, it's the same thing when you're talking about longevity in a career. You're going to get injured. Here's the one thing. The main thing is, what kind of injury is it? Is it something where I could come back in a couple of days? Is it just a hamstring injury? Did I twist the ankle? Or is it some shit that's detrimental? Did I break a bone, a leg? Is my back fucked up? Do I got stress fractures? This and that, da-da-da-da-da. So it's a lot comes into play. Now, for him, with him being the smart veteran that he is, he takes care of his body well. He does the proper eating, the proper training, and things at home. Any type of massages he might get, or steam rooms, or any of that. He takes care of his body because that's your moneymaker. That's your temple. So if my shit break down, then it's going to be because of something that I couldn't prevent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, shit, well, we can't prevent if we walking down the steps and we trip and fall. But shit, we can try to do our best to prevent that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he does, takes care of his body well. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess I really got to point that towards his will, opposing to more of his body. Because like now it's a little bit different. With him being older, he's one of the elder statesmen here in this league. So now shit, you getting up every morning and now it's a little bit slower. You know, it's taking a little bit longer for you to get ready for practice or to get warmed up for practice or get warmed up for a game. But those are all things that come into play. So let's say bar injury, the way that it's going now, I give him about another 3 years, because then after that, you know, it's going to be like, well, shit, I ain't really playing for nothing. I won my chips. I got my bread. Like, you know, he's on the threshold of breaking the GOAT's record. So it's, you know, what's he going to do next? You know, after a while, it's like, well, shit, I did it all.
I would say the best ability you can have in today's NBA is availability, and he not only has availability,
Right.
but he has durability. He is in the likes of, we talked about Hakeem, Vince Carter played in 3 different decades, Karl Malone, the Iron Man. I mean, these guys have played 82 games for 20 plus years, and LeBron is the Cal Ripken Jr. of our generation, a guy that just does not really miss extended periods of time, including commitments to the United States Olympic team in the summer. Going deep into the playoffs for a decade plus straight. The dude does not stop playing basketball, man. Now you also include his sons, Bronny and Bryce, are 3+, maybe even 4 or 5 years away from entering the league, and he may want to play with both of them before he retires. Then you start getting into the conversation of, does he want to do what Tom Brady did, who's playing football until the age of 45? I can play basketball until I'm 50, just so I may not have 9 or 10 rings by the end of it, but there will be an unquestioned who the most durable player in sports history was. And you combine that with my championships, and you'll have no other way to say than I'm the greatest of all time because I did all of it for just simply longer than anyone ever has. But nights like this week, man, have me thinking that this man looks like he is motivated to go out there and play well into his 40s. We're going to end the show today, as we always do, by presenting Sheed with a number like 34, 23, you know, the obvious ones. And now that we've gotten through the obvious ones, we're going to start to approach what I think are some tougher decisions. So this is not also who's the best, who's the second best, who's the third best. We go by the traditional 1 is point guard, 2 is shooting guard, 5 center, and everything in between. And by the end of this program, we're hoping to do a single elimination style tournament where we'll randomly draft the numbers, put them into a tournament, and we'll make our decision as to who should come out on top as the greatest number team of all time. So today's number, Rasheed, is 33.
I got an All HOF team here today. Wow. All HOF team. So for me, at the 1, I'm going to go with Grant Hill.
Okay.
Right? And so, you know, every Grant's lovable. And again, a big community person, as we just talked about with the whole MVP thing. So at my 2, I got to go with the man, Larry Legend.
Okay.
You know, his name says it all right there. Speaks for itself. And damn, if none of y'all know about Larry Legend, then shit, y'all don't need to be watching this or basketball.
Okay.
At the 3, here on out, we huge. We getting every rebound. At the 3, I'm going to have Pat Ewing. I'm putting him at the 3 because my other 2 I was looking at, and Pat is like maybe the second mobile big that I have on this team.
So I will give Sheed credit, as people are going to start to get mad, I know, but that he's got Patrick Ewing at 3. But as a diehard 90s Knicks fan, if there was any traditional center that had the mobility to stretch the floor, there were only 2 at the time. It was Hakeem and PU. I mean, we're talking 18, 20 feet.
That J.
He had the ability to stretch the floor in the early 90s. When I say stretching the floor, that meant 15
not threes,
feet.
Y'all.
No.
Right, not threes,
15. He had the midi. He had the fadeaways, and he was the original spread the floor for other people to operate, because we sure as hell know Charles Oakley and Charles Smith were not doing that. Nor was Anthony Mason, nor was Xavier McDaniel. None of these guys were stretching the floor for the Knicks. That was a clogged toilet down there in the paint. It was Patrick Ewing who was on the outside in. Yeah, he's a traditional 7-footer, but y'all are going to have to deal with it. So please proceed.
Yeah. So my 4, to me, is my GOAT. You know, in my opinion, is my GOAT, which is the captain, Kareem. He's the 4, because And I put him on that GOAT status because he got one of the only shots that's unstoppable in basketball history. I don't care in what era. And then, of course, the 5, you got to go with the big fella, Big Diesel. Big Shaq.
First of all, I just want to throw this out there that Shaq wore 33 in his lone year with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2009, 2010 alongside LeBron James. He was certainly not at his – he wore 32 and 34 in his dominant year, but
Right.
I think the rule applies
Shaq,
here.
though.
But it's Shaq. Okay,
That's
it's
Shaq.
Shaq. So it's still Cleveland.
He's a significant player.
Right. So let's make it clear to the people that are watching that even he's still putting Cleveland Shaq on this team, and we're going to need that moving forward because we've done 34 in the past, and that was LA Shaq, which is a much different version of the Cleveland Shaq. He was still an all-star, I believe, with the Cavs. So it's a different version of Shaq, but he's still the Diesel. Now, we've gone a really long way into this segment without someone that I thought would be an obvious inclusion at the 3, and I thought maybe that you were going to put PU at the 4 and the Cap at 5. Why have I not heard the name Scottie Pippen yet?
I like Pip. Pip, that's franchise. That's what we used to call him, franchise 6 rings. But with me, I'm looking more at a lot of things where a lot of our viewers would look at offensive wise. Everyone looks at Pip, even not in my book though, but everyone looks at Pip as always being in the shadow of MJ. But to me, Pip, outside of that, Pip was still a good player. Pip was a hell of a defender. He was the only real perimeter defender on that team. No disrespect to Mike, but Pip was doing it for a minute. But I think this, I would have to go with more of the popularity. You know what I'm saying? Like Grant was a more popular player than Pip. I'm not saying he was better. Of course, Larry Legend, shit. Again, that name speaks for itself. And of course, I showed the favoritism, to the big men. But, oh, yeah, definitely Pip, he could make that list. But I had to go with this list because, again, I got to show favoritism to the bigs.
Now, did you play together in Portland?
I played with Pip. Yeah, I played with Pip. I played with Pip about 2-3 years out there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my guy. Franchise.
I feel like doing some more probing into this. This isn't passing the sniff test to me. I might have to. We may have to shut the red light off here and have a little post-show conversation here because that's a former. And I know how biased you've been towards former teammates in this segment, and I didn't even hear Pip's name in the honorable mentions. So, my tail's up on this one, sir. And
yeah, I mean, I feel you, but it was, hey, that was just that squad, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right, we will leave it at that for this episode of That's What She'd Said. Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob, the man himself, Roscoe Rasheed Wallace. Until next time, my friends, I hope you enjoyed the conversation here. Maybe we'll have something more to discuss in episode 8. We won't know. Only time will tell. Until then,
yes, sir.
We will see you on the timeline.